Are there bad people? Are kids really bad? Do you ever think how you might be a bad person? Say, I'm such a bad person because of something you may have done. What does all of this really mean? This is going to be our topic for today. And my husband is here with us. Of course, he's the videographer, and he is going to help start this conversation.
Huh? That's a surprise to me. I thought you were starting the conversation.
Well, I just introduced the video topic.
Well, first of all, I thought the video was going to be called The Power of Expectation.
Oh, yes, it is. But it starts off with questions like that. See, when a child is 2 years of age, they call it the terrible twos. And they expect that that child is just doing all these bad things, and getting into cabinets that they shouldn't be getting into, maybe taking off their diaper and running around the house, or just things that parents maybe are not ready for, in my opinion. And then they have the questioning threes, where all of a sudden kids are learning how to talk.
Questioning threes?
Yes, that's what
I've
we
heard
called it
terrible
growing
twos.
up.
I've never heard about questioning
Because
threes.
when they start talking, they ask why for everything. And some people get really bothered by that. Why did the dog just do that in the yard? Why are you putting that makeup on your face? Why? And it's just all these nonstop why questions. And then as kids get older, there are different expectations, as we say in the title of the video, that people have of kids at certain ages, especially when it comes to the teen years. Rebellious teens, and teens are always defying their parents, and just all these negative things about teenagers. And then, of course, they go off to college. So college students, they're just party and all kinds of other negative things associated with them. But there always seems to be some kind of expectation within age. When you turn 30, oh my goodness, it's women are starting to get desperate, they say, to get married. And then when people hit their 40s, now everybody's going to start gaining weight as soon as you turn 40. And then in the 50s, you start slowing down. The 60s, you have to think about retirement. Some people go through midlife crisis. So it seems that society has put expectations on people, and they've heard it so much that they believe it.
You just said a whole bunch of stuff I've never heard of. That's amazing. Yeah, this is your topic. Now, well, I thought about, I even forgot, because there's so much stuff you just introduced to me that it's new to me. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about some things. I guess they might come up. My brain is still processing everything you just said.
I think it was information overload.
Or individuals. I know this one, my mom, and we met other people like this, where they get to a particular age, and then they say they're too old to do certain things. Mm-hmm. And they literally start to act as if though they're supposed to be slow and helpless.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, what's that one? Is that another one? Or you already covered that in plethora of examples?
Well, that was new to me, because I really hadn't seen that one except for people who were like maybe their 70s or 80s. But with your mom, it was when she was in her 50s. And I was like, what? You're only in your 50s. How could you be talking like that?
Right. We're talking about dying.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, see, now dying, that would be my grandmother, my Grandma Joan. She would talk about dying a lot, and she had this giant button, one of those ones you pin onto your clothing, and it had written on there, "The more you complain, the longer God lets you live." She said, so I'm not dying anytime soon, and I complain all the time.
So that's something people...
That was something, yeah.
Say also?
Yes.
Oh, the one I was thinking about was, I've heard this, and I only heard this when I came to America, about something about Monday, and there's something about hump day or something like that. I don't recall.
I don't remember all the sayings for the day, but basically Monday, people dread going back to work on Mondays. Mm-hmm. So everything is slow to get started. Then on Tuesday, they're starting to pick up the pace. Wednesday, everybody's really productive. Then on Thursday, they start thinking about the weekend, so they start slacking off a bit. And then on Friday, they just want to get done with work. And
so what's hump day?
I think that would be the Wednesday where everybody just works really hard. Oh. I had never really understood why they call it hump day. So if any of you watching this can explain that to me and to my husband, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, so let's get started then.
Okay.
Might as well go by age,
Okay.
right? So now, based on what you're saying, because these sayings are repeated so many times, it's become literally like a mass consciousness.
Yes.
Really, what is what has happened. It becomes this expectation. Right?
Yes, yes, it has.
So a child, even before a child turns 2, they really expect the child to behave a certain way.
Indeed.
Pretty much, right? So what happens if the child doesn't behave that way?
I don't know.
Our son just started the grass. He's going to cut grass.
It's gonna go
I
cut
guess.
the grass.
So if you heard that noise, we apologize. Anyway, would you call the kid a good kid? Is that when they say, "Oh, this is a well-behaved child"? Is that when they get that other label because they've been compared to the other kids that are supposed to be? Are they considered normal because they meet what society expects of them? How does that work?
I would think so. I mean, when I was younger, and the kids that I babysat, and I listened to the parents' conversations, you know, there was one lady whose daughter, she was a very good child, you know, she was well behaved at the age of 2. You know, she would be just as inquisitive and exploring as the other kids, but she didn't get in trouble like the other kids. And I think it was just the parents' perspective, you know, and also I think it had a lot to do with what the parents are doing with their kids in general, how much attention they were giving to them, and different other environmental factors that went into it from my experience.
Okay,
So they always called her daughter like the saintly child.
Okay, I was wondering where you were headed with that.
Right, whereas their kids, oh, I wish my kid would act like that or behave that way. But her environment was completely different than their environment.
Now imagine if your child hears that. Say, I wish my child would behave like that. What goes through your child's brain or mind at that point, or how does your child feel, right?
Right.
So again, expectation. But then if you expect them to behave this certain way, like you're saying, where they don't, as far as the adults are concerned, they're not behaving properly, then why is it a problem? It's something you expected.
Because people don't see it as that's what they expect and that's what's happening. They see it as, oh, this is what society says, this is what doctors talk about, this is what psychologists have to say. It's not. It's because I am expecting this of my child. That's why my child is doing this.
I see. So now, with the child, the saintly child, did someone forget to tell the saintly child that they're not supposed to act the way they're acting? They're supposed to behave like what they expect of them? What happened there? What happened? Do you know?
Well, again, because I was the babysitter and I saw how the children were being raised, I saw the environment difference, the way the parents of the saintly child paid attention to their daughter versus the other parents who kind of had more of their own thing going on and just appeased the kids and tried to entertain them. You know, they still cared about their kids, they still loved them, but the way they were raising them was very different.
Like how? Because when you made that statement, it sounds as if though the parents of the saintly child, they cared about their kid, but the other ones didn't.
They both cared
Until you
about
made
their
that
kids.
statement.
Right, they both cared about their kid. It's just the one family, the mother made sure that they had a routine. They prayed with the child every day in the morning. They read books. They talked to the child as an adult, not as a little kid. Where the other family, because I'm only comparing 2 at this point,
Right.
that, you know, the other family, the mom would talk to the kid at like a baby level.
Or
And-
treat them as a child.
Right,
pretty much.
treat them as if they had no idea and that, you know, they had to decide everything for the child. Whereas the other parent always gave the child options and the child got to choose.
Okay, so the child felt like they were involved.
Yes,
While with the other one, sometimes maybe they were involved, but then sometimes they didn't have a choice.
exactly.
Okay, and so maybe they just acted out.
Yes, and the other family didn't have as much structure either as the so-called saintly child one.
Okay. Now I don't know if that has much to do with it, because I've seen families where maybe See, that's an expectation as well. That maybe what either it's an expectation, that's what you observed, but some
Yes.
people might think, oh well, in order to have a child that doesn't misbehave at 2 years old, what they consider misbehave, there has to be a structure in place. But I know I've seen kids that are 2 years old and the household is a mess, and the 2-year-old kid is still behaving. They don't act as if though, what do you call it? Something twos?
Terrible twos.
Yeah, like the terrible twos. They don't act like that at all. At least not to me. But maybe I see things differently. You know, I don't know.
Right.
So again, it's all about what you're looking at, how you interpret it.
True.
Because our kids were 2 years old at some time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't recall them giving trouble, but that's because we probably don't look at it as a trouble.
Right. It was our perspective.
And they probably took things and threw it against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember, but
Oh yes.
yeah, so there you go. But we didn't say, oh, that's a terrible two thing. It was
No.
just, okay, they're learning from that. They're experimenting.
Yes. For example, we had this large screen TV, a really old one from like
Oh,
the
big one, right?
1990s. A big screen. It was like 4
Took up
feet by
almost
4 feet.
half the wall.
It was huge. And
Went up almost to the ceiling. It was that big.
our fifth child, when he was 2 years old, took this wooden flower that I had in a vase, and he was playing with it. And he decided to whirl it around and let go. And it went right into the screen of the television and cracked the screen. Of
Broke
course,
the screen. Not cracked it.
it did. Broke
It
the
separated.
We didn't get upset or anything. Oh, well. And of course, he just looked and said, oh. And he went over to the screen and was looking to see what happened. He was very inquisitive. How did that happen? Why did that happen? But then he picked up the flower and he whirled it around and threw it onto the floor. Nothing happened to the floor. So I could see he wasn't trying to do something on purpose just to be bad. He was experimenting. He was trying to understand, why did that break and then this floor didn't break? You know, I could see that process going on.
So the point is, it's how we interpret what we see.
Yes.
And for example, as we go along, all these timelines you talked about, like the teenagers and everything else, many times people will, because the energy we put on them, because everything in life is energy, right?
Right.
So we come back to that now. You put that thought form, we talk about negative thought forms, and in this case, if it's something you don't like, it's a negative thought form. You put that out there that you expect your child, when your child becomes a teenager, to act a certain way, because I guess every teenager supposedly acts that way. Then the teenager winds up acting that way. And then you're surprised. Well, you shouldn't be, because you put the energy out there for the child to behave that way.
Right.
And the same thing as people get older, you know, they have certain expectations. Like you said, I should be moving slowly. I shouldn't be doing anything. I should be less active, which shouldn't be the case if you want to be active, you know?
Yes.
Or people get sick more often, but they're the ones putting energy out there to make it happen.
Indeed.
So, going back to your original question, are there bad people out there? Well, as we always explain to our kids, people might choose to behave badly, what we conceive as behaving badly. That doesn't make the person a bad person.
That's absolutely
Does that make
correct.
In the Bible, it's clearly stated that God created man in his own image. Now, in his own image, maybe you could clarify this for me, but do you see God as a bad person?
No.
All right. Well, if there are bad people out there and God created us in his own image, how do you explain that person as bad when that person is supposed to be an image of God?
I see it as a matter of perception and what people have placed out there as expectations. Because for someone like, go ahead.
No, but that doesn't explain. If you see if this person is bad, how do you explain this is a bad person, but this person is in the image of God?
Because that's how they choose to behave. God gave us free will.
But that's
So-
not a bad person, though.
It's not a bad person. Their
So-
behavior and the
that's-
actions that they take might be bad.
Okay, that's the point. I want to get across.
Okay.
That when people are saying that's a bad person, there's really no explanation for anybody to, there's no argument that you can win, that you can try to convince me that really that person is a really bad person if you just go back to that one quote in the Bible where it stated that God created man in his own image.
Mm-hmm.
Well, God is not bad, so how could anybody be bad? That's the point. And that's just the way I see it. Nobody is bad because we are all created in God's image. Now, as you said, we might choose to behave in an inappropriate manner or
Correct.
in a manner that other people don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily make it bad, by the way. Some people, depending on what they've chosen as their core principle, as in the one video we talked about, it was mass consciousness video,
Mass consciousness,
where you saw
right.
the lady, the way the lady dressed, and you said, "Oh, she's half naked." Somebody else might look at that and say, "I don't see anything wrong with that."
Mm-hmm.
That's just your choice of how you dress. But you put that expectation now on every woman. Well,
Right, I did.
What gives you the right to put your expectation on everybody else just because you choose to dress a certain way?
It doesn't give me any right to do so.
Get it?
I was judging in the past.
Ooh, I'm glad you said that.
Yes! I used to judge people a lot in the past. I have been changing and mending my ways. As Father Brown always asks, have you repented? Yes, I've been repenting.
All right, but you get the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we put our expectations out there. Some of us don't realize it, but that's what we're doing. The moment that we disagree with what somebody's doing, it's because what that person is doing is not what we expect.
It doesn't match one of our core values.
Exactly. And so the question becomes, do we now vilify that person? Do we say, oh, and we put something, a negative stamp on that person?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we try to understand why the person is doing what the person is doing? And then that way, we don't judge anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal should be to understand every individual, not judge. Because also in the Bible, God said what?
Thou shalt not judge.
Right. It said, I don't know if he puts it that way, but it says, he's the only judge, pretty much, is what it says. You know, you should not be judging anybody. I'm the one that judges.
Right.
So let's go back to, are there any bad people? What do you think?
No, I don't believe there are bad people. I believe decisions they make and their behavior might be bad, but I believe everyone is good.
Okay, now you talked about expectations, right? Because this is what it's about, expectations. So then how do you explain, for example, someone that gets to age 70 and then suddenly dies, like natural causes?
Well, I would say, based on my belief, it's probably karma and...
No, forget about karma, because we're talking about expectation now, right? Let's stick with the topic of, this is all about expectation.
Okay.
We put things out there, and that's what we experience because we put it out there.
So somebody dies of natural causes at age 70.
Mm-hmm. How do you explain that?
I
Based
have
on
no
what we're talking about here.
How do they thought they would die? They thought they were
Exactly.
old? Oh, okay.
They thought they'd die when.
They thought they'd die at 70.
And so what happens?
So they died. Okay.
That's the point.
Okay.
It's expectation, right? Forget about
Right.
law of karma. Because remember, karma is out there, but you can change it. It's not
Right.
something that's put in stone and you can't change it.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone keeps saying, oh, I'm going to die at this age, more than likely it's going to happen. Circumstances will
Right.
take place for it to happen because it's an expectation that's been set.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we change that? Well, how about if we change our expectation and maybe decide to try to understand people instead of trying to force them to do what we expect them to do.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean, for example, you have to go dress like the lady that you call half naked.
Right, right.
That's not what it means, but at least you should get to the point where you say, you know what? That's how she wants to dress. I understand what she's doing, that she's a songstress, and who knows what they do in that world.
Right.
Maybe that's something that they told her she should do, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have teenagers, and we deal with teenagers all the time. They're in the soccer team.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do we do with them? We get them to change their expectation, right? Instead of behaving a certain way because they're expected to, we work with them and get them to understand, no, you are your boss. You can decide. This is your universe. You can decide how your universe turns out, how things in your universe happen. Don't just do something because that's what you're expected to do.
Yes.
Because that's what they would tell us, about smoking and drinking.
And drugs.
Exactly. Well, because my friends do that, and that's what they expect us to do anyway. And they say it a lot, actually.
They do.
Now I
They
think
do.
about it.
Yeah, you mean getting their jobs and putting their job before everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what everyone does.
Right.
So stop being like everyone.
Focus on your schoolwork so you can have a stronger future. So expectation then is energy that we put out on individuals, maybe without us realizing it. And if we want to change that, for example, with younger kids, they'll tell them just positive things.
Yes.
Tell them it's still expectation. Now here's the thing, right? Change your expectation. How about that? So instead of terrible tools, you can say what? How about experimenting tools? How about inquisitive tools? Because that's what they're doing. They're just experimenting. It's a new world to them.
And when they start questioning at the age of 3,
Curious threes.
Exactly, they
Right?
want to know.
Or you could say questioning threes, but it's in a positive way. Like, okay, they
Yes.
question because they want to know. Learning three. Teenagers. They're going from being a person that was dependent to someone that's going to be independent soon. Well, it could be confusing for them.
And they're testing boundaries.
Exactly.
So help them through that instead of going after them and saying, oh, you can't be doing that or you shouldn't be doing this. Just, okay, why did you do that? And what were you hoping to gain from doing that? Those kind of
but
questions.
I was saying, instead of saying troublemaking teenager or something,
Right.
you could say what?
Maturing.
Transitioning, right, there you go. Or maturing teenagers, something like that. So
Learning
it
to
becomes
be
positive.
independent.
Right. Independent, there you go. Independent teenagers, or,
The start of independent thinking, maybe.
and then you treat them that way. So when you talk, they give their input, you sit down with them, and what do you think? Why do you want to take that action? And then with that, things should change. I mean, that's how we've helped a lot of kids change. We've had
Yes.
kids that have been branded, ADHD and all these different things. They were taking medications, and all of a sudden we get their performance.
Depression and
right.
all kinds of things.
All of a sudden their attitudes change, right? They go to
Right.
school, their grades are up when nobody expected that to happen. And what do? We just help them change their perspective. Hey, you're not dumb, okay? This is just a condition, but focus on this. Isn't that what we do?
Yes.
Change this a little bit. And before you know it, performance improves.
Their confidence goes up.
So no secret there. It's all about expectation.
All right. If you feel this video has helped you and you think it might help someone else, please feel free to share. Remember to subscribe, like, and find us on Facebook at Clearing Healing and Guidance, on YouTube, on Instagram at 190 Vision.